Okay, I'm going to start the meeting now then. I'll tell you, yeah, we're live. We're live now.
Thank you. Good evening, elected member, officers, and members of the public to this executive board meeting. This meeting is being held virtually in accordance with the Part 2 of Local Government and Police Crime Panel Regulation 2020 and the Council Supplementary Procedure Rule. It's all about COVID-19, observing the social distance and need to restrict the spread of the virus. So can I ask member and officer to observe the following principle, please? Please mute your microphone and turn off your video all time unless I have called upon you to speak. Remember to mute your microphone and turn off your video again when you have finished. Indicate at the start of the meeting if you want to speak through the MS Team chat. Then I will probably call you to speak. So I just want to know any apologies. Mustafa Desai.
Yeah, that's the only one I'm aware of.
That's the only one we are aware of. Minute of the previous meeting. I moved the minute of the previous meeting. Any matter arising? Any question, comments? John, are you okay with the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So all in favor of those minutes? Thank you.
In favor.
Silence means that everybody is okay. Declaration of interest? Anybody? No. Item 4 is equality implication. May I ask all the executive members to confirm that you have considered and understood any equality impact assessment associated with the report on this agenda ahead of making any decision? That means yes?
Yes, Chair.
Right, move on to item 5, public forum. I have 4 questions. First one is from Ian Syke, and I think David is going to relay the question.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is a question from Mr. Ian Sykes of Blackburn. The Executive Board decision presented for approval states that the identified growth programme also supports delivery of the strategy and policies set out within the Council's adopted local plan, comprising the core strategy and the local plan part 2. This is not true. It does not support the delivery of the policies of the local plan, since it includes the Whalley Old Road site, which is safeguarded land under policy 4 of the local plan part 2. This site cannot be developed prior to a new local plan without breaking a local plan policy. The Executive Board decision also states that the growth programme ensures that the Council continues to meet its statutory obligations in terms of maintaining a deliverable 5-year supply of housing sites and passing the government's annual housing delivery test. Again, this is not true. The Council's housing land supply statement says that the Council has a 9.9-year supply of housing land, and further large developments have been approved since that was published. The Council is only required to have a 5-year supply of housing land. It is also not true that the proposed growth programme is required to meet the housing delivery test. The housing land supply statement says that the Council's housing need is 188 dwellings per annum. According to this Executive Board decision, the Council have provided 1,300 since 2015. The planning statement for the Whalley Old Road site states, Blackburn with Darwen Council can demonstrate a housing land supply in excess of 5 years and local delivery of housing in excess of that required by the National Planning Policy Framework. At least one site in the growth programme would violate a local plan policy, and justifications provided for the growth programme are provably misleading or false. How can the Executive Board approve this growth programme without appearing morally bankrupt? Thank you, Chair.
Phil?
Thank you, Chair. A lengthy question, and I'm afraid it's got a lengthy answer, so I will begin.
Thank you.
The objective of the 2015 Local Plan Policy 4 was to ensure that a pipeline of development sites is available in the medium to long term. The term safeguarded used by the enquirer can be misleading because it could imply that the land is safeguarded from development, whereas it actually means that it is positively earmarked for development. The policy states in part that this land will only be released for permanent development following a local plan review which proposes the development. Interpretation of this policy will be a matter for the Planning and Highways Committee to determine. However, it is clear that the policy does not require a new local plan to be adopted before the land is released. Otherwise, this is what the policy would have stated. The Council initially reviewed the local plan in 2018 and concluded that a comprehensive update was necessary because, amongst several reasons, the previously adopted housing targets of around 600 houses per year were not being met by some margin. The Council therefore commenced work on a new local plan in 2018, thereby accepting that the existing plan was out of date in many respects. For example, our locally adopted housing requirements were shelved due to the plan being out of date, and the government's standard housing need formula must temporarily be used until an updated plan is adopted. In February 2019, an initial public consultation exercise was undertaken regarding a new single local plan, and in January 2020, the Council published a new local development scheme setting out a proposed timetable for adoption of the new plan. The Council made clear its intention to be publishing a draft local plan in September 2020, but unfortunately, due to the impacts of COVID-19, publication of the draft local plan has now been delayed. The planning application has therefore come forward at a point where an updated plan is clearly being progressed. The land, subject to the current planning application, is a discrete parcel of land which is earmarked for future development in the 2015 local plan. We'll go on to the second part of Mr. Sykes's question now. So in order to maintain a 5-year housing land supply and to meet the government's housing delivery test, it's vital to continuously progress sites from initial identification through to on-site construction. This preparatory stage can be carried out over extensive timeframes of up to 10 years before any housing delivery is achieved on a particular site. Furthermore, the crucial point to note here is that the Council's housing land supply position can significantly change from year to year due to a combination of new applications coming forward, sites being abandoned, stalled or delivered, for example, at Haslingden Road or Cathedral Court and at Sappy, and most significantly when housing targets are amended, either via national changes in the housing delivery test or following updates to the local plan. This is especially pertinent now due to the COVID-19 pandemic in relation to potential construction delays and negative impacts on investor and house purchaser confidence. Local authorities are expected to react quickly to such changes, and therefore it's important to have sites prepared or shovel ready, which can be added to the 5-year supply when necessary. For example, just 1 year ago, this council was measured against the government's housing delivery test and only achieved 72%, a level at which we are considered to have failed, and therefore required to implement an action plan to improve housing delivery and to add an additional 20% buffer onto our targets. Clearly this year we were pleased to pass the test, which we believe has been due to the preparatory and delivery work undertaken in previous years, assisted by the adoption of the local plan in 2015. COVID-19 impacts are expected to impact on this year's delivery and that of future years, because each construction site is progressing at a much slower pace to allow for social distancing and supporting new supply chains severely disrupted. The COVID experience illustrates the need for a strong pipeline beyond the immediate 5 years, given the unpredictable and prolonged impact of a once in 100 years pandemic. In 2015, government set out an ambition to deliver 1 million net additions to the housing stock in England by 2020, and more recently has repeated a commitment to deliver 300,000 new homes this year. This goal has not been achieved by some way. In response, the Chancellor is expected to make a number of strategic funding announcements shortly regarding the development and delivery of new homes and supporting infrastructure. It's important that Blackburn with Darwen is able to compete for these new national funds while continuing to make progress with our wider growth plans, which will hopefully be complemented by government initiatives to help level up places like our borough. This is especially important to help us to begin to recover following the COVID-19 pandemic. With 300,000 housing requirements for England in mind, the government is also consulting on further amending the housing targets for all local authorities, which for Blackburn with Darwen would increase our targets from 188 per annum to 346, thereby significantly reducing our housing land supply figure. The consultation ends on the 1st of October, after which the government intends to change the targets for each council, ensuring that the overall requirement for England exceeds 300,000. And then the final point was a statement from Mr. Sykes about the executive board being morally bankrupt, and the answer to that is that we've already referred to that question in the first part of my answer. There are no potential inclusions in the growth programme that are provably misleading. Sorry about that, Chair.
Thank you very much, Phil. Very long answer, very comprehensive answer. I hope that will satisfy the questionnaire. The second question is from Ken Moulding. David, are you reading this question?
Yes, Chair, I can read the question.
Thank you.
This is a question from Mr. Ken Moulding of Blackburn. A Capita report to the Lancashire Enterprise Partnership from December 2018 includes the Whalley Old Road site in Blackburn with Darwen's growth programme. Despite the site apparently being part of the council's growth programme as early as 2018, this is the first time it has appeared in a growth programme published by Blackburn with Darwen. It was not included in the growth programme presented to and approved by the Executive Board in March 2019. Why did the Council provide one growth programme to its strategic partners in 2018, but another growth programme to the Executive Board and the Blackburn with Darwen public in 2019? And was that a deliberate attempt to conceal information from the public? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Phil, answer?
Yeah, okay. The Capita report referred to is a technical note, which will be sent to Mr. Moulding, I think, probably tomorrow, relating to the business case for North Blackburn. It's a transport scheme seeking funding support for the Let's Growth Deal 3 programme. As a transport scheme business case, it aims to forecast future infrastructure needs in the long term with a horizon of the year 2034. The anticipated long-term growth programme for the North Blackburn area, including Whalley Old Road, was therefore correctly included within this business case to ensure that comprehensive information was made available to the LEP to understand the potential economic growth outputs of any proposed infrastructure funding. The business case methodology applied is standard and consistent with LEP and government initiatives and requirements. Prior to the Capita report, the Walley Road site had been formally allocated for future development when the local plan was adopted in 2015. This took place following several stages of open public consultation and a subsequent public inquiry held by the Planning Inspectorate. Therefore, the potential for future development of this site has been publicised extensively over the years by a number of methods, including letter drops, consultation events and press notices. The growth programme to be discussed at today's Executive Board differs from the Capita report in that it is limited to cover only the programme of work for this year ahead. This report is presented once a year to Council's Executive Board as an update regarding potential site disposals and development projects. The Walley Road site did not form part of the 2019/20 programme and therefore was rightly not included within the Executive Board decision of last year. The site is proposed to be added to the programme for 2020/2021 and therefore it is included within the Executive Board report to be discussed today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thanks a lot. I think the third question is from Mr. Mark Russell. I think Mark is on telephone.
Yes, can you hear me?
Mark?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The Growth Programme's Exec Board decision says that the Council's strategy has delivered significant growth since 2015 by securing the delivery of 5,000 new jobs in the borough. The latest figures available from the Business Register and Employment Survey show an increase of 5,000 jobs in Blackburn-with-Darwen from 2015. It appears that the Council is trying to take credit for every single job created in the borough. Is Blackburn-with-Darwen's growth programme also responsible for the record employment levels experienced across the country prior to the pandemic? Or are the government's economic policies to thank for most of the jobs created in Blackburn-with-Darwen since 2015?
Phil?
Okay. The report simply makes the point that since 2015, 5,000 new jobs and 1,300 new homes have been created in Blackburn and Darwen. It's self-evident that the Council's growth strategy has been a major factor in these developments, but no one is suggesting that it has been the only factor. What is true is that the Council's open approach to new developments has created a climate where developers and investors feel confident to come into the borough. It's also true that many of these developments, particularly new housing, have been opposed by the Conservative opposition at the planning stage and have only happened as a result of the Labour Council's dedication to improving the living standards of the residents of both Blackburn and Darwen.
Okay. Mark, do you have
Okay.
anything else to point?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a follow-up question. The Council's growth programme seems primarily bothered about how it can make itself money through increased council tax and capital receipts. Instead of concentrating on how to maximise its own income and spending, why doesn't it take a leaf out of the government's book by concentrating on how it can enable private individuals and businesses to thrive, as has happened throughout the country, and as witnessed through the creation of record numbers of jobs? The Council can do this through measures such as free town centre parking that will get shoppers back into town, help businesses and create jobs. So why won't it do that?
I think, as I said in my answer, it is as a result of the Council's open approach to developers that we have achieved or have contributed to the jobs and to the new housing in the borough. The list of that is included in the growth programme, in fact, tells of many of the new developments that have occurred within the borough. All of these are going ahead and are bringing jobs and encouraging new people to move in. It's also obviously true that the council's main funding streams pre-COVID were around council tax and business rates. There's nothing surprising about this. There's nothing unusual. It's exactly the same for every other local authority. And so it's not surprising, and it would in fact be a dereliction of our duty if we didn't in fact make contributions to that, because if we didn't do, then that would essentially lead to the council being unable to support the frontline services onto which many of the people of the borough are well, not so much, are both dependent and are expecting the council to provide.
Thank you. Can we move on to item question 4 from Keith Murray? I think Keith is on the line. Over to you, Keith.
Thank you, Chair. At the last meeting on the Para 8.2, there was a question asked, is the council solvent? And that information was responded to by a written reply. Now, as we are locked down, we're unable to see that reply. And so it will be useful for the electorate in general to understand what the council's position is. And particularly, if needed, how much additional cash is expected to be borrowed this financial year on loan terms.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Vicky?
That was to Councillor McGurk.
Yeah, Vicky McGurk.
Thank you.
Vicky.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Just in relation to the last executive meeting, I really did struggle, as sometimes we do with technology, to fully hear the question, which is why I wanted to give a written response. So I'm very happy to give that response now via your question. So is the council solvent? Yes, it is solvent. The reply that I gave to the executive board via written email was that yes, the council is solvent. Our position via our internal and external auditors are that we are a going concern, and the answer is absolutely yes. In relation to the second part of your question, with regards to additional cash, any borrowing that the council does can only be done through capital borrowing for investment in capital programmes or for short-term cash flow reasons. Currently, the law does not allow us as a council, as a local authority, to borrow cash for its revenue spending. So unless the government changes the law, this council and no other will be borrowing cash for capital for revenue spending. In addition to this, the Finance Council in February is where all of the investments and borrowing for capital programmes is delivered and agreed upon at that Finance Council. So in answer, just in summary, yes, the council is a going concern. No, it's not solvent, and we will not be borrowing any cash for revenue spending.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, could I ask a subsequent question, please?
Yes.
Right, the subsequent question is, if we get written responses in the future, could they be attached to the minutes so that we don't have to request them? At the present time, any written response and the question are supposed to be recorded by the Chief Executive and recorded in a book. Now, it's suggested that the electorate can then come in and look at that book, but of course, under COVID conditions, that's not the case. So it would save anybody asking in future if that could be added to the end of the minutes. Any question and response, please. Could you have a look at that and see what can be done?
I will ask my legal department if they can do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Okay, can we move on to item 6? There is no question for non-executive members. So the item 7 is our youth MP update. Is Zora or Khalid or Mahmood there? Zora?
Yeah. So this month has probably been the most exciting of them all in this pandemic. We've been going back to school, and whilst it is exciting, for most students, it's been plagued with lots of challenges. As students, we've had to understand and get to grips with the new norm. While schools have been continuously updating students on and around their efforts to keep the school environment safe, I don't think any of us has been fully prepared for this type of return to school. Following instructions at school for social distancing, wearing face masks for most of the day, and staggered timings have been some of the challenges which students have found it hard to adapt to. And above all, the hardest part has been not being able to throw your arms around and hug your friends you haven't seen for a long time. Personally, one of my fears has been about how behind we are in our education, and if we'll be ready to do important exams like our GCSEs and A-levels. However, the point I've tried to get across to a lot of my friends and people on social media is that we're lucky that our schools are working to keep us safe. We've got to appreciate the efforts that go into keeping us safe, and the least we can do is follow the instructions. This weekend, I'm doing a Zoom call for the annual conference regarding the Make Your Mark campaign to vote on the campaigns I think need to be furthered and action needs to be taken on the most. I'm speaking on two motions, which are the eradication of homelessness and tackling cigarette and drug use among young people, which I have 1 minute to talk about. Liz informs me that I'll be the first Black Women Darwen Youth MP to get selected to speak on the motions at the annual conference. So this is a huge privilege for me to represent the young people in Black Women Darwen. As a forum, we did a consultation questionnaire about COVID and young people going back to school, which has been sent out now. It's really well thought out and it's providing not only knowledge for us on how young people are truly coping, but also somewhere they can put down their true thoughts and opinions on the whole situation going on right now. We'll feedback the results at the next exec board meeting. I'll now pass on to Mohammed.
Thank you, Zora. Thank you.
Over the past month, I've been working on developing my campaign on youth involvement in crime. This has consisted of planning and organising meetings with the Pause for Thought campaign. Collectively as a forum, we have also been putting forward ideas on how we can motivate young people to carry on through these difficult times and respect the guidelines. We have successfully contributed regularly by posting forum blog updates and speaking to many young people. As a forum, we've also been going on socially distanced litter picks to help keep the local community clean. The forum collectively has also been working on the energy efficient homes poster and video for Youth Focus Northwest to promote energy saving in Black Women Darwen. As the weeks progress, we are going to be carrying on with helping young people to make adjustments to daily life during the COVID-19 world and providing the best advice to support our peers through forum blogs, motivation and advice. I'll now pass on to Khalid.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Khalid Omar, Deputy Youth MP. Good evening to my counterparts in the council and the public. This month we have been getting ready to go back to our respective schools and colleges. I've been working on a short documentary where I talk to children about the break they took from education because of coronavirus and their fears and opinions about coming back to education. I'm also continuing my ebook that is going to help teenage and young adults learn about financial responsibility. Even though children are excited to return to school and see their friends and are eager to learn, young people I've spoken to are still anxious and have concerns. When returning to school, the amount of people so close together, most of them not wearing masks in classes, has disturbed the younger generation of Blackburn, especially the students with pre-existing conditions. We will keep you updated in the next executive board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mo. Thanks. Thank you, Zora. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you, Mo. I think it's a wonderful job what you are doing. Thank you for your contribution on every part of the life. A lot more to be done to make sure the young people are really obeying the guidance of the government and the local authority measure to make sure we are going to protect ourselves and protect our planet and our family. Thank you. Any question to anybody? Youth MP?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Mohammed, it's Councillor Julie Gunn here.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. Thank you very much to all three youth MPs and deputy youth MPs. Firstly, I think you're absolutely right, Zara, the way you've described the return to school as both exciting and challenging. And I'm really heartened to hear that all three of you are really helping young people to process their emotions and their feelings and their anxieties about returning to school. And also the point you make about wanting to hug your friends when you haven't seen them for 5 months is absolutely heartfelt. I agree with that entirely. I just wanted to reassure you as well on the issue of education and your the forthcoming exams at the end of this academic year. I'm working alongside other elected members and portfolio holders from other areas of the North West, and collectively we've written a letter to the Minister for Education to try and ensure that we make sure that we accommodate the gaps in learning that have happened. So there's been gaps in the previous academic year, but there might be gaps in the current academic year. So we want to make sure that those are accommodated when it comes to exam times. Of course, if children are being asked to self-isolate, that's going to be a different type of gap. It won't be a full gap because people will be able to access their classes online, hopefully, and those kind of things. But we do have to be mindful that that's going to be a bit unequal, isn't it, in terms of who has access and who doesn't, and also who has to self-isolate and who doesn't. So just to reassure you, this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I think it's really important that our current year 13s and our current year 11s aren't disadvantaged by their experiences in education so far. So we are. I will keep you posted on that as well. So thank you, and the questionnaire, I look forward to hearing the results of your questionnaire as well. Mohammed, thank you so much for your continued commitment to the community and those clean-ups and that being socially distanced and making sure all your peers are too. It's really appreciated. Yeah, Khaled, you're absolutely right, that anxiety, I'm really pleased to hear that young people are getting the opportunity. I think a few meetings ago we spoke about the things that we're doing as a council and with our partners to ensure that young people are supported coming out of COVID, and it's just as important to me now as it was then. So thank you very much and keep up the fantastic work. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. Anybody else? No? Can we move on to executive member report? I have nothing on agenda. I'll just give you update on the COVID-19 and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our staff, resident businesses who have been following the national guidance and local restriction as we responded to 19. This is really a difficult time for everybody. And I know that those businesses who had to remain closed due to our local restriction will have been relieved that on Tuesday this week they could begin to reopen. Our public protection team has been in touch with them, make sure they are fully supported being COVID secure. I'm delighted to see our schools are reopened over the past week, and feedback has been very positive. Public appearance to the setting in and enjoying the return to routine with their friends and teachers. We have had a positive feedback from users of Darwin Leisure Center, and I know our residents will be pleased to see that the rest of our leisure facilities open over the next week. All of our settings are COVID secure, and information for the sporting organization using our facility is available on our website. I'm sure colleagues will be agree it is crucial that we all comply with the government guidance of minimizing the social contact with the people we do not live with. I appreciate the feeling of association this brings to some of our residents. I urge them to be continues to make contact with our health hub for any sport. The Prime Minister is introducing further restriction across the country from Monday that we must not meet socially in group for more than 6 indoor or outdoor. Clearly, if a single household or sport bubble is larger than 6, they can still meet. And COVID secure venues such as our gym, churches, mosques, restaurants, hospitality venues can still hold more than 6 people in total, but group larger than 6 must not mix socially. Funeral, wedding ceremonies, and organized sport can still proceed, and school, college, and workplaces are unaffected. I know these changes can be confusing, and we will be, of course, continue to update our website. Future guidance is released. The Prime Minister announced yesterday that he is increasing capacity for council through a registered environment mental health Environment Health Officer and COVID Secure Marshal for our town center. And my disappointment is to learn that, however, they will be not receiving funding for these marshals. Council have once again been left down very badly. The financial impact both on the council, our local economy, our resident is significant. The government funded pilot to provide financial support to the people who are self-isolating is not enough. And I hope my political colleague will join me in lobbying the government for additional local support. Our staff are doing a fantastic job on test and trace, despite the national constraint on lack of the lab capacity for tests. I know many of the residents will have been frustrated over the recent day about the confused message coming from the government about who can get tested. We are aware of the issue and working closely with regional and national colleagues to ensure we are prioritized for the testing. We are pressing for access to test for those out without symptoms and without the need to book an appointment. We will update our website as we get further information. For now, we are advising all our residents to only have tests if they have any COVID symptoms. Our community testing is working very well in our restricted zone. Since starting earlier this week, we have visited 3,572 properties and 507 households have been accepted test kit. Our team have all the information needed to explain the process, and we also have clinical swabber and bilingual staff trial built with the community team. I hope colleagues will join me thanking once again all our staff for the continued hard work and support as respond to the COVID-19. Thank you. Any question, comments? No? Can I move on to adult social care and prevention? There is no report. Children and young people, education.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, thank you very much. Just before moving my report, I thought maybe just a few words about the return of all pupils to school in the last few days. Just to report, we've had very positive responses. We've had very good levels of attendance. We're exceeding the national average for attendance at school at the moment, which is really positive. And I think that's testament to the hard work that schools have done to reassure parents about sending their children back to school. So thank you to them. We haven't had any reports of any schools closing. There have been occasional bubbles that have needed to close and send children and young people home for self-isolation. But we've got a really positive start to the academic year, really, in terms of children with an education, health and care plan, and SEND being in good attendance levels as well. So with that, and we've continued now. We've restarted our weekly meetings with school leads as well to monitor that. Schools are working really closely with those parents who are still slightly anxious about returning their children to school, and that's a positive too. So just with that update to move my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Move and second. Any question, comments? Anybody? All in favor of that report? Silence means yes. Thank you. Your second report is adoption. Julie? You are mute.
Oh, apologies, Chair. I'm just saying I'll move that report and take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any question, comments? Questions? No? All in favor of that report? Silence means yes. Next one is school capital program.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Again, just happy to move that and take any questions. Thank you.
Move and second. Any question, comments? No? All in favor of the report? Thank you. Accepted.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Judy. Next one is Environment Services. Jim?
I've nothing to report, Chair.
Thank you. Public Health and Wellbeing.
Chair, could I just ask the environment?
Yeah, John.
Well, thank you. Councillor Sharrock, can I just ask you a couple of questions, please?
Yeah. Jim Smith.
You can, but it's Jim Smith there.
Jim Smith. Yeah, sorry, Jim. Couple of questions for you. Do you think, in the current climate, it was right to roll the blue bins out at this time? And is it right that your collection of bin men are not collecting the blue bin if it's only quarter full?
No, that's incorrect. And yes, it is. It was exactly the right time to roll it out. It gives people a chance while they're at home and on furlough to get their heads around this. Did that answer your question, John?
Yeah, just another one. The next one is due to an article in the Telegraph the other night. Can you just ask you a question? In the last 5 years, how many bin wagons have been refused because they've been contaminated?
I couldn't answer that, but I could certainly get you the figures for that. But it was high. We were doing at one stage, we were doing 40 tons a week, if you remember.
Well, that's funny because under a Freedom of Information Act, under the last 5 years, it states that no bin wagon has been refused entry because of contamination.
We don't refuse, John. It's not sent away because it's a claim. We pay twice for it. That's what was the problem. It goes to the sewage site, empties off, can't be used as recycling, and then has to go to landfill. So you end up paying twice for it, and there lies the real issue. And I'm sorry that you didn't understand that, but that's how it is. It's not a case of refusing them. It's just that we've been paying twice. It's about the tonnages. Contamination was up to 40 tonne. We're down to 20 tonne. Like more than 40, we're down to 20 tonne. It will go far, far lower over the next few months. Now that we've got different streams.
And we agree that it was only at 7 tonne when we were in charge doing weekly collection. Agreed?
I couldn't tell you that offhand, John. You've clearly got the figures, but we're not going back to weekly collection. What we're doing is dealing with this bit, and it will be fine.
Right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you.
The residents will get used.
Right. Okay. Thank you for those. Thank you for those answers. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much.
John.
Can we move on to digital and customer services? Yes.
Sorry, Chair. Can I come in?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think John fell in when you are moving to public and
Wellbeing. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was only I just wanted to add one verbal comment, really, which is important to remember that today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Obviously, in normal years, we would have a number of major public events to recognise and raise the profile of this day, but that's not possible this year. There's a heartbreaking statistic, which is that suicide is still the main killer of those under 35. So it's a really big issue. This year, we've got to do a lot of online events. But I just wanted to make the point there, and that if people need help in particularly difficult times as we have now, please do seek that help. So that was all it was. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Damien, on anything?
Yes, please, Chair.
Okay, John.
Thank you. Just a couple. First of all, I'd like to echo your points about the suicide. I think it is very sad. It is going higher. Obviously, I have a lot of things to do because most of my daughter's a mental health nurse, so I see and hear a lot about young people, and it is very sad. And the more that we can do to support them and help them is got to be a good thing, because any loss of life, and certainly from a young loss of life, is very, very sad. And if we can do anything to prevent that, I think we should do everything we can. just a next point. Councillor Talbot, just going back 6 weeks ago to an article in the Telegraph when I said to you that we shouldn't use a blanket thing for COVID, we should be doing it as postcode. And you turned around and said at that time, it won't work. I quote, this is your quote, it won't work, we all live in the same borough. Yet 3 weeks later, your director is on the TV and your leader of your group is saying exactly what we said. Do you think your comments were wrong, or do you think I was wrong at the time? Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks for the question. I mean, I think obviously all of us across the country are learning as we go with a situation that we've never faced before. We've never faced this situation in the borough before, and I think what we wanted to do is avoid a complete local lockdown as we had in Leicester, and the work that the council did with the government has resulted in that avoidance of the local lockdown. Others sit in the specific meetings with the government officials, and Dominic Harrison, as Director of Public Health, sits in those meetings with the government officials. We had to give the government confidence that we had a grip of the issue locally, and that was what was proposed. The point I was trying to make when I spoke to the press, when you'd raised that issue, was that we are one borough, we're all borough councillors at the end of the day, and we want the best for the whole borough. I think the point really is still the case that we don't want to see individual wards in and out of potential lockdown, but we want to see the numbers controlled. The numbers did rise following the comment that I made, and the numbers were higher in a certain group of wards, and those groups are all geographically together. So what actually was implemented wasn't that one ward was put into local lockdown, but it was that a block of an area was subject to additional measures, and that is something that has been working over the last few weeks. So it's not specifically what I said to the press, and I take your point, John, but I think it's something that's been targeted and it has been effective. We're not out of the woods yet. We've got to carry on working hard. But these are difficult circumstances. None of us have faced these circumstances before. But I take your point, John. Thanks for the question.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, John. Thanks a lot. Digital and customer services. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've no formal reports, just a few little updates. Obviously, the digital and IT teams are working extremely hard to keep information flowing for our residents, and continuous improvements to the Blackburn with Devon Borough Council website are ongoing as we get further information regarding COVID and changes in services. One of the latest things that they've done is the government's new scheme around isolation help, the £13, although we don't really agree that it's enough. And, you know, I'm sure colleagues and officers are lobbying the government to try and increase that. They've introduced the forms so people can actually make those claims. The latest improvements, listening to residents' feedback around the household waste recycling system. We've improved that further, which is making it easier and quicker for people to book their appointments, and we've had excellent feedback on that. We've got over 900 residents now signed up on a customer panel, Chair, which is really useful for us as we move forward and we introduce more digital services, because it's really important that we listen to the views of the residents and the end users and make sure that everything that we do is fully usable and user friendly with the views of the residents on board. And only this week, a number of new forms have gone live. Again, this is all this digital sort of updates are enabling our residents to access services in this COVID situation from their homes, and sort of continue to benefit from the services that the council offers. So with that, I'll take any questions if anybody's got any.
Thank you. Any questions to Councillor on verbal report? No. Can we move on to item 8.4, growth program? Phil, I think you have given the substantial amount of information on this subject on 2 questions. So
I was going to say, yeah, so the growth program, of which we have been speaking earlier, is obviously the list of the projects which we are hoping we will be able to bring forward in the year 2020 to 2021. It's obviously critical, really, from the for the borough in terms of the recovery, or well, recovery from COVID, and in many respects, COVID isn't finished by all accounts. So that's what it is. It's a long list of projects. I'll happily answer any questions.
Thank you, Phil. I think it's a very comprehensive report. I think the majority of the projects which are here in front of us, they are all fair. Most of them are all private sector, and I'm very pleased the private sector had a confidence in this council. They are coming here and investing the money. It's not all the government money. I think number of housing projects and a number of employment schemes, your garage, your home bargain, and Lidl, and Farmer Newman's site, Bottom Street, and number of other initiatives which are taken by this council. Not all the council money, all the local central government money. It's your initiative and your team initiative. I think growth team is doing a wonderful job with yours, all strategic and development side. So I think thanks to you and thanks to officer, I think under the difficult circumstances, this council has done a great job to get invested in this town. For this, credit to you and your team. Any question and comment?
Yes, Chair. Can I just make one question or comment to Councillor Ryle? Okay. Obviously, with the answer that we've given, and it was very comprehensive to those people, as there is, like you say, it's a 10-year supply, could we not give them some sort of guarantee that we would take that to planning committee, providing obviously we didn't need to rush it through, and in 18 months time, we would hope that this would be over? Would that not be something that we could look at? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
It's something we could look at. I don't know that. I mean, at the moment, there is a formal application. It's important to make the point that 2/3 of the land within that application is privately owned. So, I mean, it's not an application that is being brought forward by the council. It's an application that's being brought forward by a private developer stroke agent, and there is some council land involved in it. And I mean, as my answer said, we want to keep moving forward because well, partly because the government's demands of us are changing, but also because projects come in, projects go out, no more so really than during COVID. So, I mean, I think that we will be bringing it to the planning committee, I think in November, because that's what our statutory duty now is. An application has been raised and we will have to process it.
Okay. Okay, John?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So all in favor of that report, growth program? Anybody against?
Yes, Chair.
It is carried. Thank you. Can I move to item 8.5, section 106, process? Well.
Yes, sorry, Chair. Just to clarify, did Councillor Slater just vote against the growth programme?
He did, because he's not happy with certain aspects of it.
Okay, thank you. That was the point I think I made in my question to your colleague, Mr. Russell. That it does indicate really that a lot of this is being done because the Labour Council is dedicated to improving living standards of the residents of both Blackburn and Darwin, and to some degree, what of course this report illustrates is the spin-off of the developments that we are doing. These are additional monies that are coming into the borough to enable us to do positive things with them, often associated with some of the developments, some of the new roadworks, new road layouts. Certainly, for example, the new pitch in Witton Park, the 3G pitch, was significantly brought about as a result of 106 money, which then leveraged in a very substantial amount of money from the FA. So it's a positive spin-off. It's the amount of 106, Chair, that we get obviously has grown exponentially as a result of the amount of effort and growth that we have had in the borough, and it's a very helpful contribution to the improving lifestyles. Happy to move the report.
Thank you, Chair. I think I echo what you are saying. I think Section 106 done a great job. New roads, I think play area, open spaces, and also school development. All those things are coming with the Section 106, and I'm very pleased about it. Thank you. So report is moved and second. All in favor? Silence means yes. Thank you. Can I move on to item 8.6, finance and governance? Vicky?
Thank you, Chair. Before I move the report, just quickly wanted to say this is a Q1 report, so it's the first quarter of the year, and what the report is trying to illustrate is the revenue budgets as they are without COVID impact and with the COVID impact. So I'll move that report, but in moving this report, I'd also like to include a further recommendation, if permissible, in respect of the rental income due on both the Blackburn and Darwen markets. As noted in this corporate revenue monitoring report, we have been reviewing our income streams and income losses due to COVID-19 across all of the portfolios within the council. In line with other authorities across Lancashire, we have considered our markets, both the Blackburn and Darwen markets. These markets were closed to the public from the 23rd of March throughout and were unable to open until the 15th of June 2020. With the market traders, whilst they received a business rate grant, which was to help them in part to cover their business expenditure incurred over that period, now that they are open, the footfall is significantly reduced and has been very slow to pick up over the last 2 months. As Councillor Phil Riley just mentioned, COVID is far from over, so there is some slowness on the regaining of the economic climate in the town centre for the markets. As such, my recommendation is that the rent charged by the council for the 3-month period of the lockdown now be deemed irrecoverable, in line with the decisions taken by other Lancashire authorities. The loss is included within the figure in section 6.1.2 of this report, i.e. the income losses of £11.3 million, and will be included within our claim to the Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government later this month for a financial support specifically to fund, in part, the losses in respect of sales fees and charges as promised by the Secretary of State in July. And with that, I move this report.
Thank you very much, Vicky. I think I'm very pleased about your decision on your finance department, because I was really concerned, and I have spoken to John early on today, because it was very important that I will get involved, John, with it, and I think he's very pleased about it, and I'm very pleased about it, because market trader was really suffering, and I think what happened during the 3 months, they were not gone on holiday. It was government legislation that we have to close everything because of COVID-19. And I think everybody suffered, all the businesses are suffering, and I think the market traders, they were really concerned about it. I was really concerned about it, that they shouldn't be charged 3 months rent while the business was closed. So I think I'm very pleased that you are waiving the 3-month event, and I think that will be really appreciated. I hope the letter will go to all the traders marketing Blackburn Garland. They will give them some confidence. They don't have to worry about 3 months rent. John, you want to add something?
Yes, Chair. I don't want to make a political thing about this. I just welcome it. I think it is needed. I think all the traders have struggled on both markets recently, and I think that it is really welcome, and I'm really pleased with this decision.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Anybody else? No? All in favor of that report, including the verbal report? Yes.
Could I just ask some further questions, Chair,
yes,
when we
John.
finished?
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me today, Vicky?
Yeah.
Loud and clear at the moment, John.
Good. Just a couple of questions. I'm not asking you to know the answer to this one straight off, but could you let me know how much the council has saved in wages with the staff that have been furloughed? How much money has the government have we actually received the government from COVID at this present time? Now, obviously, I'm not asking you to know them straight off, but if you could let me know those via email, that'd be fine. But the one I wanted to just clarify with you is, you said to Mr. Murray that we are solvent. Now, are you saying to me now on this exec board that including the pension liabilities, all of the debt, including what we borrowed for capital programs and everything else, is less than the assets that we own?
Just that last part again, sorry, John. So
I'm asking, with the pension liabilities of this council, with the combined debt and the portfolio overspends, at this present time, are you saying to us that the council's assets are greater than its debt?
Okay. So I can answer your first question. This borough council has not furloughed any staff. So staff have been redeployed if, for example, leisure staff have been brilliant and they've been working throughout the COVID pandemic in the food hub, helping out along the way with regards to COVID-19.
Yep.
So
That's fine, thank you.
We haven't furloughed anybody. With regards to money in, I'll get you an absolute figure, and again, I'll get that out to the rest of the executive members. And council assets are greater than our debts. That relates to the balance sheet, which is currently being audited and will be published in November.
Right, I look forward to that.
You're welcome.
If I am wrong, I will apologise. If you are wrong, then you can apologise to me.
That's fine, but as I say, yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We are trying to protect this council and people of this borough. That's our responsibility as elected members. So we'll do everything possible this council will be protected by our side. So all in favor of that revenue budget monitoring report plus the verbal report about the 3-month waiver for the market rent?
In favour?
Yes. That means yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 9 is corporate issues. Item 10 is matter referred from executive board. None. Item 10.1 is a petition use of 8 Eden's Park provide cars and sport. Anybody on the petition? Is Phil your side?
Yeah. This is a petition that was brought by a group of residents in opposition to an attempt to take one of the private houses on Eden Park and turn it into a home for I think a very small number of young people, 2 or 3 I think. It's been an unfortunate saga, I have to say. It's highlighted 1 or 2 issues in the way in which the council deals with these kind of requests in terms of the sequencing, which we will look at. As a point, I can now tell the meeting that the applicant has withdrawn the application, so the house is not going to be turned into a home for children, and I presume will at some stage revert back into a domestic dwelling. So effectively the issue has gone away.
Thank you. So that's fine. Anything else on the part 2? There is nothing on part 2. So Thank you very much. And once again, I think I forgot to thank Lancashire Evening Telegraph, the Radio Lancashire, especially Graham and Telegraph. I think they are doing fantastic job as far as COVID-19 concerned, about raising awareness in the community and telling them what to do, what not to do. And I think we really appreciate all the partners who are trying their best to make sure we will be able to come out of the woods of this virus. Thank you very much, everybody. Wherever you are, safe journey home. I'm still here in the council, but I don't know where you guys are, but good evening.